There you go.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I'm an alcoholic. So welcome guys to the God Idea. Thank you, Dale, and thank you, Rob. And it's all good to see you all. Howard's going to do a little recap before we continue on page 100, because as you guys know, he's the legend when it comes to this. Oh, never mind the recap.
Well, we're actually starting on the bottom of page 100 from last week, but it occurred to me as I was uh, reading this about an hour ago that paragraph 2, which begins with when working with a man and his family, uh, there are five pieces of information that Bill gives us in that next paragraph that kind of just got past me. And I just wanted to uh, point it out because I think it's valid. It's important stuff. It says when working with a man and his family, okay, that starts off the paragraph. And then there are five things that we should make sure to do or to not to do, whatever the case may be. It says, when working with a man's family, you should take care not to participate in their quarrels. You may spoil your chance of being helpful if you do. Here's number one: urge upon a man's family that he has been a very sick person and should be treated accordingly. Not a bad person, not weak, but a sick person who should be treated accordingly. The second point: warn against arousing resentment and jealousy. Third point: you should point out that his defects of character are not going to disappear overnight. Point four: show them that he's entered upon a period of growth, a period of spiritual growth, and ask them to remember when they're impatient, the blessed fact of his sobriety. And that last part is important to make note of the fact that we're addressing the family. The family should be grateful that at least he's not drinking. We have dealt back on page 82. We told what happens when a man just thinks that sobriety is enough. Well, it's not. A man is unthinking when he says drinking sobriety is enough. So in this case, when we're talking to the family, remind them that at least he's not drinking. Earlier on, when we're talking to the fellow recovering alcoholic, we got to let them know that no, that's not enough. That's just not enough. That's a starting point. Um, and let's pick it up at the bottom of page 100, if you like, with the assumption that we're spiritually fit. You want to go with that assumption?
Sure.
It is, if I might, assuming we're spiritually fit, what does that mean? Right. What is that assumption? Well, that we're in the right relationship with God, for one. That's one of the things it means. We are seeking his will at all times. Um, and we're free men walking with God. That's what being a spiritually fit means. Very often I hear people say, being spiritually fit, oh, we're living in steps 10, 11, and 12. Yeah, okay. That is a way to remain in that state. But when it comes right down to it, what does spiritually fit mean in this case? It's having the right relationship with God, seeking his will, and we are walking free men walking with our God. And we do that by living in that 10, 11, and 12 step. Okay.
Thank you, Howard. My name is Kathy. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. What a superb lead. That's not sarcastic. That's it. Okay.
Oh, can I add one thing? Can I?
Okay.
Right here, there's a shift. There's a radical shift.
Hey, you're stealing my part.
Oh, you
I
got
know.
that?
Go,
You
go,
want
go.
to do that? There's a shift. Up until this point, there's been a detailed collection, if you will, of instructions for working with the new man, extolling the benefits. of sobriety. Now we're shifting away from that, and we're assuming that the man is spiritually fit, and we're now going to start to extol the benefits that come his way with being spiritually fit. So now we're not just talking about uh, the detailed instructions about how to get there. Now we're just extolling the benefits of being there. What does being spiritually fit mean? And that's what the next few paragraphs are all about.
Oh, me not. Thanks, Howard. Kathy, alcoholic addict. So we are beginning the bottom of page 100, paragraph 4. For those of you following the directions, not the directions necessarily the big book, but the directions that Howard has put out for working with others. We are on number 38. And Howard just briefly started to speak about it. So it says, assuming we are spiritually fit, we can do all sorts of things alcoholics are not supposed to do. And that's as well as a direction 38, that's also a promise, you know, and that also refers, the way I see it, is that's when we've done the work with the sponsee. You know, it's not a necessarily, you know, turning the page to this and saying, you know, we're going to see it in the next page that I can go all sorts of places and I, you know, I'm on step 2. No, it's doing the work in order to this page, right? It's doing all the work previous. So we're talking about that person who is and has done the work and is spiritually fit. People have said we must not go where liquor is served. We must not have it in our homes. We must shun friends who drink. We must avoid moving pictures which show drinking scenes. We must not go into bars. Our friends must hide their bottles. If we go to their houses, we mustn't think or be reminded or about alcohol at all. Our experience shows that this is not necessary, and that I have highlighted in my book. You know, again, experience, it's not theory. These under 100 is telling us their experience, and saying that it's not necessarily so that we can't go into people's houses that have alcohol. We have to avoid it in the supermarket. I'm using my own words, and so on and so forth. And again, just to really ring home and remind us that this is if we're spiritually fit, right? This is if we can do these things if we're spiritually fit. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and also let's bear in mind when he says our experience shows that this is not necessarily so. Our experience back to we being the first 100 or 70 or 80 or 40 or whatever number you want to use for the founders, the originators. But he's saying that we and our experience shows that these things are not necessarily the case. And then in the next paragraph, he shifts to we being members of the fellowship of the Spirit. We have done this work. We have entered into the world of the Spirit, and our life is different. We meet these conditions every day, and I'll leave to Kathy to continue.
We meet these conditions every day. An alcoholic who cannot meet them still has an alcoholic mind. There is something the matter with his spiritual status. So again, it's telling us, Howard's talking to the founders, when we do this work, I believe we become also the way that we follow in their footsteps. So if I can't meet these conditions, it's telling me I'm not spiritually fit, basically, that I still having an alcoholic mind, I'm not spiritually fit, right? And there's again something wrong with my spiritual status. His only chance for sobriety would be someplace like the Greenland ice cap, and even there an Eskimo might run up with a bottle of scotch and ruin everything. Ask any woman who sent her husband to distant places on the theory he would escape the alcoholic problem. And again, that is theory. But if we go to page 120, just to join the links, we're talking about paragraph 3.
Yep, paragraph 3.
Um, we never try to arrange a man's life so as to shield him from temptation.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if he gets drunk, don't blame yourself. God is either removed. That's not it. It's never, we never try to arrange a man's life. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, ask any woman who has sent her husband on geographics, knows that those things don't work. And the connection on page 120, paragraph 3, is in thinking align with that. We don't try and rearrange a man's life. We don't shield him from temptation.
Right.
We don't send him to the other end of the world thinking, oh, okay, he'll be safe there. The polar ice cap's a nice, safe place to be. But the problem with that is somebody's going to show up with a bag of dope or a bottle of something, and everything's going to go to ruin. So you can't shield the man from that. And that's, I think, what we're talking about here.
Okay. In our belief, um, any scheme of combating alcoholism which proposes to shield a sick man from temptation is doomed to failure. And again, I have this highlighted, and again, they're talking about any way of shielding the man or any scheme of combating his alcoholism is going to fail. Because if he still has an alcoholic mind, he's still going to drink. And I don't know about you, when they try
Mm,
to control or stop me, I went at it more. I didn't consciously know I was doing it, but it fueled me to drink more when I felt like I was being told what to do, or, being told not to go to the bar or whatever the case may be. It fueled me to do it even more. Like, so it doesn't work. If the alcoholic tries to shield himself, he may succeed for a time, but he usually winds up with a bigger explosion than ever. And yeah, if I try to not drink and white knuckle it, like this is my experience, is it's gonna come out the other way, or I'm gonna sooner or later I'm gonna get drunk, right? And I can only shield myself for a small amount of time. That time is inevitable. I don't know when it is, right? Because at the end of it all, I have an alcoholic mind, and I'll probably go on a spree. And I know I have a little note here as well saying, it could be a shopping spree, it could be
mhm.
whatever. Again, it's just switching seats on the Titanic. Eventually, I'll be back, drinking.
Yeah, it says in our belief, any scheme, a scheme is any number of things. It usually begins like this. I've got an idea, and that from there it's all downhill. I've got an idea. That's a scheme. Any idea that an alcoholic comes up with is a scheme. And it usually wounds up in an explosion. And like Kathy mentioned, it's not just always drinking. It could be a drinking spree. It could be an anger spree. It could be a gambling spree, any number of things. If he still has an alcoholic mind, it if in our belief any scheme of combating alcoholism which proposes to shield the man from temptation is doomed to failure. You can't shield him because he still has an alcoholic mind. And that's why we're talking about it. It'll wind up with an explosion bigger than ever. And then the paragraph ends with these attempts to do the impossible have always failed. Once again, let's take a look at page 120, paragraph 3, because it says in the middle of the paragraph, why will those things fail? Because if he gets drunk, don't blame yourself. God has either removed your husband's liquor problem or he has not. So we're going back and forth on that point. These attempts to do the impossible have always failed because God has either removed the obsession or he hasn't. It's that simple.
Oh, um, so our rule is not to avoid a place where there is drinking if we have a legitimate reason for being there. And so here's a rule. We don't see many rules in the book, but this is rule number 2. I'm sure Howard will go through
Hmm.
the rules with you actually. can't remember them all in order, but that's why Howard's here also. And it talks about if we have a legitimate reason for being there, and we can see it's in italics. And this is the other part of we can do all sorts of things people can't usually, or we can do anything that we could do before, right? So this is if we have a legitimate reason for being there and we're spiritually fit. Those two things qualify us to do what they're telling us to do. We were able to, it's going to say in the next speech, we'll be able to go into the bar with a friend if they want to eat. We'll be able to go to a party, a function. We'll be able to do those things we couldn't do basically without a drink or without being a grumpy head. You know what I mean? Without it. But that's the other condition, is a legitimate reason for being there. And again, we're going to look at those as we turn the page, and that we're spiritually fit. And Howard, go ahead.
Yeah, those are the two conditions, assuming we're spiritually fit, which means again, we are walking hand in hand with our Creator. If we're spiritually fit, there's all kinds of things that we can do that people usually would assume we can't do. And one of those things is, I'm sorry, is to have the right motive. There's nothing we can't do, nothing, nowhere we can't go if we are spiritually fit and have the right motive. If I wind up walking into a crack house, it better be because I'm going in to get somebody specific out of there. If I'm going in to crack to
12-step.
12-step the occupants of that crack house, I'm in the wrong place. It's the wrong place to be. If I'm going in for a specific person who I know is in there and I'm going to get his ass out of there, that's one thing. If I'm spiritually fit and I have the right reason, and that's the right reason, I can go there. But if I'm spiritually fit and I'm going in there without that right reason, then I'm really not spiritually fit, because that's not the right kind of decision to make. So, assuming again that we are spiritually fit, and as Kathy mentioned, so our rule is not to avoid a place where there is drinking if we have a legitimate reason for being there. Now, there's the reason. If we have a legitimate reason for being there, and if we have an alcohol, and if we don't have an alcoholic mind. Those are the two conditions. But as Kathy mentioned, there aren't too many rules in this book, but there are a few, and I'll go over them with you if you want to take a moment. The first rule is on page 74, paragraph 1, if you will. Just connect dots, which I love to do. Paragraph begins with, if we cannot or would not rather do this. This is paragraph 1, the first full paragraph. It ends with the following sentence. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. That's rule number 1. There aren't a lot of rules, but here's a few of them. 1 is we should be hard on ourselves, which means rigorous honesty on ourselves, not brutal honesty on everybody else. That's cruelty. We're not talking about that. We're talking about rigorous honesty towards ourselves and always considerate of others. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2, we just came across on page 101. Our rule is not to avoid our rule is not to avoid a place where there is drinking if we have a legitimate reason for being there. That's number 2. Number 3, let's turn to page 118, paragraph 2. 118, paragraph 2 is the next rule. Paragraph begins with, your husband knows he owes you more than sobriety. If we go to the bottom, the end of that paragraph, it says, live and let live is the rule. That's a rule. That's also a must. But there's another rule. There's so far. So now we've got what? Three rules. One, two, three. And here's the last one, 125, paragraph 3. Page 125, paragraph 3. Many alcoholics are enthusiasts. If you look for that paragraph, you'll find what I'm talking about. Page 125, the bottom paragraph. Many alcoholics are enthusiasts. They run to extremes. At the beginning of recovery, a man will take as a rule, there's the last rule, one of two directions. He'll either plunge into a frantic attempt to get on his feet in business, or he may be so enthralled by his new life that he talks or thinks of little else. That's the guy who's going to get everybody else sober. With these, we've had experiences galore, but again, those are all the rules that we found at this point. So our rule, getting back to page 101, is to remember if we have a legitimate reason for being in these places, and that includes bars, nightclubs, dances, receptions, weddings, plain old whoopee parties. When was the last time you were at a whoopee party? To a person who has had experience with an alcoholic, this may seem like tempting providence, but it isn't. You want to continue?
Yeah. So for those who are following directions, on paragraph 3, like we just read, it tells us that if we have a legitimate reason for being there, and that's the next direction, which is direction 39. So paragraph 4, you will note that we made an important qualification, and qualification we've made here is number 1, that I'm spiritually fit, and number 2, that I have a legitimate reason for being there. And we looked at some of the legitimate reasons above. We talked about being spiritually fit. And that's the qualification. Therefore, ask yourself on each occasion, have I any good social, business, or personal reason for going to this place? Or am I expecting to steal a little vicarious pleasure from the atmosphere of such places? So again, this is a question. Have I any good social, business, or personal reason for going to this place? And again, it's gonna, it's gonna talk about that in the next page. We've talked about it.
Well, he does. I mean, he's now getting into specific instructions for analyzing our motivations for attending these various functions where there will be drinking. These are all bars, nightclubs, dances, receptions, whoopee parties, all of this nonsense. Those are places where there will be alcohol served, and he's going to be giving us specific instructions for analyzing our motivations for being there. How do we know we have the right reason for being there? Well, last paragraph, which Kathy will read in a minute, she'll tell you. You'll note.
What?
You will note that we have made an
Yeah,
important qualification.
That we've did that. Therefore, ask yourself on each occasion, have I any good social, business, or personal reason for going to this place, or am I expecting to steal all of the vicarious pleasure from the atmosphere of such places? So again, we're looking again at our motives. Why am I going to this place? Am I going here to experience something through someone else's experience? Am I going there to sit at the bar or the restaurant and look at a couple on the date drinking wine? Am I going there watching people drink shots at the bar? Am I going there for another motive other than what I need to be going there for, basically, and trying to experience what these people are experiencing, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what vicarious means is secondhand experience, indirect experience. Us imagining ourselves living through an experience that the other person is living through,
Mm-hmm.
right?
If you answer these questions satisfactorily, you'll need have no apprehension. Go or stay, whichever seems best. So again, I think this is a really good thing to look at, because people, you know, especially as a sponsor or a friend in the fellowship, you know, people ask, I don't know if I should go to that. I don't know if I should
Mm,
go to my sister's engagement party. I don't know if I should go to that cousin's wedding. Um, and here's a good place to look at it. Can I answer these questions satisfactorily? In other words, am I spiritually fit and have I a reason for going there, right? Or am I going there not spiritually fit? Um, maybe I have a reason, but I'm going there unspiritually fit, and I'm sitting trying to having vicarious pleasure through other people, right? Um, so it says go or stay, whichever seems best. And here's the next
number 40, right? Reason number 40,
mhm.
instruction number 40.
Be sure you are on a solid spiritual ground before you start, and that your motive in going is thoroughly good. Um, do not think of what you will get out of the occasion. Think of what you can bring to it. But if you're shaky, you had better work with another alcoholic instead. And so again, they're giving us what's the right motive here. Um, and your motive's going to be thoroughly good. Again, we talked about the reasons for going. We talk about the spiritually fit. That's the qualification, those two. And it's again reminding us, make sure you're in spiritual solid ground and your motive is thoroughly good. Again, another statement to ask ourselves, am I spiritually fit? Do I have a reason for going here? And it says, do not think about what you can bring, you will get out of the occasion, think about what you can bring to it. And I think that's a very generic two sentences, because it's not the way we're supposed to live when
Mm-hmm.
we're going out into our workplace with our family, with our friends, in our meetings. We're thinking about what we can bring, not what we can get. But if you're shaky, you'd better work with another alcoholic instead. So if I'm in doubt, if I'm like, I don't know if I'm spiritually fit to go there, or I'm just unsure, it tells us what we are to do. You must go and work with another alcoholic instead. And I'll just go back a little bit to, this is not in the same context as this, but I love it in Bill's story. You know, he describes his spiritual experience, and then I think it's like 2 pages. I think it's 13. I could be wrong. Later, he has self-pity and resentment. And what does he do? He goes down to the local hospital and helps another alcoholic, and he comes out and he's back on his feet. Paraphrase, but it's the same solution here. We see it in like sex as well. If sex is bothersome, go work with an alcoholic. In quiets the imperial urge, you know, and we see this all through the book. You know, yes, we're working with others, but I'm going to go off track a little bit. But we see it from the second edition right up here, like loads and loads of references about working with others, right? Because my selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of my troubles, and I don't have the power, right? But when I go and work with you, I don't have any problems, at least for that hour, right? And so again, what do we do if we're unsure? We go work with another
Mm-hmm.
alcoholic instead. And what does that look like in a practical form nowadays? Like, well, that might mean, you know, not able to go to the event, wherever it is that you're questioning. But pick up the phone, call that
Mm-hmm.
newcomer, get onto a meeting, watch the people at a meeting, look who's struggling, send them a message, send them your number, get their number. Go to another meeting if you can. There's plenty of 24-hour meetings that need your help, you know, and like when I'm doing that, I'm not thinking of me, right? When I'm doing that, I'm not thinking of me. And so that's today how I would see that, you know, log on, give a phone call, you know, there is, we are so blessed. We have it at our fingertips. Like, so yeah, that makes me think of whenever they wrote this book, like the extent they had to go to work with others. And sometimes it annoys
Mm,
me.
yeah.
This is just my experience. Sometimes I'm gonna say it. Sometimes it annoys me when like people are like, I can't get a sponsee. I'm like, oh, really? I could help you with that. We are so blessed. You know what I mean? Anyway, and I will not go on that, but so it gives us direction if we're not able to meet the criteria that we just discussed in the qualification. Yes, Howard.
Yeah, there's so much in the last part of this paragraph. You know, go or stay away, whichever seems fit. Uh, but be sure you're on solid spiritual ground before you start. And please note it says, and your motive is going, that in going is thoroughly good. It doesn't say or. It's not an or and, or it's not an or. It's spiritually fit and right motive, not either or. It's both. Be sure you're on solid spiritual ground before you start, and that your motive in going is thoroughly good. In other words, turn a negative into a positive, right? You go somewhere to help someone else. Remember, uh, practical experience told us back on page 89 that that works when other activities fail. It doesn't say double down on your meetings attendance. It doesn't say any of that. What it says is practical experience shows that when working with that in working with others, it beats everything else. Um, and again, we're turning a negative into a positive, and you'd better work with another alcoholic instead if you're still not in on solid ground. Um, and this is an interesting presentation here, if you want to use that word, uh, because this paragraph should be applied, if you will, to why we go to meetings. If you think about it, why we go to meetings, are we using them as spiritual gas stations where you go to fill up, get your energy, get that pumped up, and then you leave and come back for more the next day? Is that what you're doing? Or are you going there to give something to somebody else? Am I going there to bring something? Am I going there to take something? That's where recovery begins. I really think so. When I look at what are my motives for going to any particular meeting, if I'm going to give or am I going to take, that's where recovery begins, is my motives are right. I'm going there to give something, not to take something anymore. I was a taker my whole life. I'm not taking anymore. Um, and so again, we turn a negative into a positive is what that is telling me. You wanna-
Yeah, I'm not sure if I did give the direction number on this, but it is direction 40.
40, yeah.
And it begins with be sure you're on solid spiritual ground instead, right down to the end of the paragraph where it says alcoholic instead. Okay, so why sit with a long face in places where there is drinking, sign about the good old times? And we're gonna look at and probably still in Howard's thunder because I can feel him over here. But I get it of you, like what? Anyway, these are the three examples we're going to look at, and I'll show you them as we go along with you. Number one.
Oh, yeah.
These are the three examples of legitimate reasons. Okay, do you want to do it, Howard?
No, go right ahead. Go, please.
So number one, if it is a happy occasion, try to increase the pleasure of those there. So that's a good reason. That's a good example, right? Number two is if a business occasion, go and attend to your business enthusiastically.
Mm.
And number three is if you are with a person who wants to eat and bar, by all means go along. So here's three examples. If it's a happy occasion, maybe it's a family event, a birthday, it's telling me that to be helpful, go there and bring something so others can have a, contribute, right? And if it's the same with you have a business, a dinner or lunch or something got to do of the business occasion, goes and tells us to attend to that enthusiastically. It doesn't tell us to be grumpy about it. I mean, we're not perfect, but we don't go grumpy. And it says, and if you're with someone that who wants to eat in a bar, which is very common nowadays, go with them. But again, we have to make sure that we are this is one of the two parts of the qualification: a legitimate reason and spiritually fit, right? And
Yeah.
this is the three examples. Harry, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, those are, he mentions on page 101, paragraph 3. So our rule is not to avoid a place where there's drinking. And then he says, if we have a legitimate reason for being there. And like so many other things, when he poses a question, and that to me is a question, what is a legitimate reason? I mean, what would be an example of a legitimate reason for going there? He now gives us those three examples. If it's a happy occasion, let's say it's a party, somebody's birthday or something of that nature, try and increase the pleasure of those there. Two, if it's a business occasion, right? One is a happy occasion, just a party. The next is a business reason. Go there and attend to your business enthusiastically. Enthusiastically means in sync with God. En means with. Theos means God. So we're in sync with God. And the third reason, if you have a person who wants to eat out at a bar, by all means, go along with them. Um, just three reasons three of many legitimate reasons. Give you an example. I worked with a guy who, for many years, who decided to retire, and he decided that at the end of this last week at work, he was going to take everybody in the department, in the sales department, out for some drinks at the place that they usually hang out at on a Friday afternoon. And he said the drinks are on him. He wants everybody in the department to come along, and I've worked with this guy for quite a few years, and I respect him, but I'm not going to jeopardize my sobriety just to go there and say goodbye. So I have a plan. First thing, I take my own car. I have a plan that I'm not dependent upon anybody else. I can't be trapped there and not be able to leave. If I start to feel antsy, get in my car and go. That's it. Um, and so I went to this party with this for this guy, and I had my ginger ale while everybody else was taking shots, and I drank a toast to him. And 20 minutes later, 20 minutes after entering the bar, I left the bar. I got in my car and drove home. And that, as far as I'm concerned, was a happy and a business occasion. It was business related, but it was also a happy occasion to say goodbye to the guy who I enjoyed being with for these years, working together in the same office. These are just examples of legitimate reasons. Once again, um, and if we let our friends know they're not to change their habits on our account, at a proper time and place, explain to all your friends why alcohol disagrees with you. And did we get to number 41, hon?
What?
Did we get to number 41? Reason number 41, which is the next paragraph.
Um,
Well,
I don't know what you're
our
asking.
job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No. So let your friends know they are not to change, we're in the above paragraph, their habits on your account. Um,
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off on that.
no,
You know,
I've
it
been thrown off. Sorry,
says
you.
your new job is to be at a place. Our new job. Well, what's our first job?
Wait, I haven't finished.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let your friends know that it's the next direction.
Can't hear you, Kathy.
Oh, you
Sorry.
can't hear me?
You're not muted, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay, awesome. This is the next direction, which is let me just find it first for you guys. I think so we did direction, I know hard. We did direction 40. And that is yes, better work with another alcoholic instead. So the next direction, sorry, guys, to throw you around here. It says your job now is to be, this is direction 41. Your job now is to be at the place where you may be of maximum helpfulness to others. So never hesitate to go anywhere if you can be helpful. You should not hesitate to visit the most sordid spot on earth on such an errand. So, did you want to speak on this, Art?
Well, yeah, he says your job now is to be at a place. My job now. Okay, so what was my job before this? You may want to turn to page 63, paragraph 1, where we were told we have a new employer, right? We have a new employer. What is our job? Just like any job, anytime you start a new job, you're being given a job description. So on page 63, we're being told that we have a new employer. Remember the details we got on the previous page? He's the principal, he's the director, he's the father, etc. Well, that's our employer. And what is our job? At that point, keep close to him and perform his work well. That's our job. That's been our job up until that point. Now, on page 102, Bill tells us our job now is to be at a place where we may be of maximum helpfulness to others. So never hesitate to go anywhere if you can be helpful. That incidentally, two references to making an approach. First line, our job now is to be at a place. Being at a place is a reference to approach. Be a maximum helpfulness to others, so never hesitate to go anywhere. There's the next reference to approach. If you can be helpful, you should not hesitate to visit the most sordid spot on earth. That's the third reference. Three references to approach in one paragraph. One paragraph alone, he hits it three times. Our job now is to be at a place where we can be of maximum helpfulness. So never hesitate to go anywhere. Reference number two, if you can be helpful. You should not hesitate to visit. There's number three, the most sordid spot on earth on such an errand. Keep on the firing line of life with these motives, and and God will keep you unharmed. Why? Anyone ever hear the expression God armor? You've got your God armor on. Keep on the firing line with those motives. Is another promise, incidentally, and God will keep you unarmed. You'll be dressed in your God armor at that point.
Many of us keep liquor in our homes. We often need it to carry green recruits through a severe hangover. Some of us still serve it to our friends, provided they're not alcoholic. But some of us think we should not serve liquor to anyone. I never argue this question. We feel that each family, in the light of their own circumstances, ought to decide for themselves. You want to share in that, Howard?
Yeah, well, it's another must. We never argue with this question. That's all.
Yeah, we are careful never to show intolerance or hatred of drinking as an institution. And so this is the next direction, which is 42. Experience shows us that such an attitude is not helpful to everyone. Every alcoholic looks for a spirit among us and is immensely relieved when he finds we are not witch burners. A spirit of intolerance might repel alcoholics whose lives have been saved had it not been for such stupidity. Howard?
Yeah, this I've always taken this paragraph as a kind of a shot at the Oxford group's approach to things, because they were about intolerance. They were a temperance organization. So they're saying we must never show intolerance or hatred towards drinking as an institution. Um, and he said that is just plain stupid. Um, it's like the Oxford group's approach to alcohol. They wanted to ban it from the face of the earth, and all we wanted to do is help the alcoholics who are still struggling. We're not religious crusaders. We're anti-alcohol lobbyists. Our only wish is to be useful, to be helpful to those struggling. God has given us a great gift, and we are here to share it with those who would have it. And that's all that paragraph is telling me. It's being on my toes that we're not a crusader, we're not lobbyists. God has given us this great gift. He's recognized, He saved us, and our job now is to share it with those who would have it. And I'll get back to more of our job now in a moment, but we can continue the next paragraph if you like.
So it talks about, sorry, what we just read. I'm not sure if I give the direction number in this. So it talks about never to show intolerance or hatred as drinking, as of drinking as an institution, and talks about we are not witch burners, right down to stupidity, what Howard was sharing about. That's direction 42. So we're going to look, there's one more direction at the end of this, and I will show it to you. So it says, we would not even do the cause of temperate drinker any good, drinking any good, for what not one drinker in 1,000 likes to be told anything about alcohol by one who hates it. Someday we hope that Alcoholics Anonymous will help the public to a better realization of the gravity of the alcoholic problem. And this is the last direction now for our working with others. And it says, but we shall be of little use if our attitude is one of bitterness or hostility. Drinkers will not stand for that. Howard?
Yeah, that incidentally takes in gossip. Hate to tell you that, but that's our attitude will be of little use if our attitude is one of bitterness or hostility. Well, if you're gossiping, it's bitter and it's hostile. It's not helping anybody. Um, yeah, and that's number 43.
Mm-hmm. After all, our problems were of our own making, battles are only a symbol. Besides, we have to stop fighting anybody or anything. We have to.
Yeah, that's a must. That's a must. Alcohol was a symbol of our spiritual disease. Sobriety is a symbol of our spiritual condition. Let me just repeat that. I said, our problems of our own making, bottles were only a symbol. Yeah, alcohol was a symbol of my spiritual disease. Sobriety is a symbol of my spiritual condition in recovery. We have stopped fighting anybody or anything. We have to, and that last we have to is a must.
All right. I think we can stop there from reading any new material tonight. And I know Howard wants to give a little preview, a little look into what's coming for to the wives. So why don't you do that, Howard?
Yeah, well, we can do that. Wanted to just go back to something here. We talked about on the previous page, which said our job now is to be at a place where you may be of maximum helpfulness to others. Remember that? And we went back further to page 63, where we were told God is our employer and so on. Page 77, we're told our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. That's our next job. Then we're told on page 84, 2, our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Next reference is 85, 1. We must carry the vision of God's will into all our affairs. I'll go back to that to help out if I'm losing anybody. But on page 84, paragraph 2, it tells us paragraph 2, I'm losing my place here. Oh, our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Page 85, paragraph 1, we're now told we must carry God's vision into all of our affairs. Page 102, 2, which we just came from, it's telling us that we are to be of maximum helpfulness to others. And the last one comes up on page 159, but we'll get to that when we get to 159. Changes our reason for doing some of this work. So we'll leave it at that. And next week we'll get into to wives.
All right. Has anyone got any questions, any comments, any?
Should I turn recording off?
Yes, sir.
Here we go.